Yo, so in this video we're going to be doing a Faruzan weapons tier list. I'm going to tell you which are the best bows that she can use. So starting off with the bow requirements, I'm going to tell you which are the things you're going to need in a bow for Faruzan first. The first thing you're going to need is probably going to be energy recharge. Whether it's a substat or a passive that helps you with energy, that's going to be very necessary on Faruzan. Because her burst is going to be like her main thing and it's going to cost a lot of energy, so you're going to need that. Also, in most of her teams that you're going to be playing her in, they're going to need more energy, and she's going to act in as sort of like a battery for like Zhao, for example, or something like that. And in that case, any weapon that's going to be helping your team with energy or anything like that is going to be pretty good. The second thing you're going to need is probably going to be a high base attack. Her passive is going to be giving you a damage bonus based around her base attack, so a weapon is going to be the only thing that's going to be able to like change your base attack, obviously after upgrading her level. So yeah, higher base attack is definitely going to be appreciated. It's definitely not as important as energy recharge, but it's something to look for. You don't want to have a weapon with like a very low base attack. And finally, since she's generally going to be able to deal damage, you'd want to get some crit rate and crit damage. These are not really necessary for like the main things that Faruzan does, but since you're going to be building her for like support, most of her support features doesn't really require much. Just get enough energy recharge, a high base attack, and that's it. So there's nothing left to focus on, so you just might as well get some crit just to increase like her own damage. It's not necessary, but it's cool. Also, some attack percentage is going to be pretty cool, so yeah. Now that we know that, let's start ranking the bows. Alright, so first of all, we've got the Raven Bow. It's a 3-star weapon, elemental mastery, no base attack, nothing like that. So it's definitely going D tier. Sharpshooter's oath, crit damage, and like some weird passive. Yeah, it's probably not gonna be as good, so yeah, it's going D tier too. Same thing with the recurve bow, same thing with the slingshot. Messenger, in my opinion, is probably not really as good, even though it gives you crit damage, but you should probably not use it. And same thing with the ebony bow. So yeah, all of the 3-star weapons are going to be D tier. We've got the Favonius bow. It's pretty good. It's going to give you energy recharge, which she needs. And it's also going to support your team with energy recharge, which is very good. It has kind of a low base attack, but it's not really super low. It's going to be usable. But as I said, for the energy recharge and stuff like that, it's going to be one of her best weapons. So in my opinion, the Favonius for Faruzan is definitely going S tier. It checks most of the boxes. And I don't think there are really any weapons that are going to like work on her perfectly. So this is as good as it gets. So yeah, Favonius is going to be S tier. We've got the Stringless. Is going to give you elemental mastery, and then it's going to increase your elemental skill and burst damage. It's just a damage weapon. It's cool, but I wouldn't really say go use it. So I'll probably put it at like B tier. Most of like the damage focused weapons are probably going B tier. We've got the Sacrificial Bow. It's going to give you energy recharge, and then the passive is that you can reset your elemental skill. It's good in theory, but I'm not sure if it's going to work at like refinements 1 or 2. You're probably going to need at least like refinements maybe 3 and up for it to be able to work consistently. But yes, so the high base attack and the energy recharge are going to be pretty good. So I would probably put that at S tier 2, probably lower than the Favonius, but it's definitely still a pretty good weapon. It's going to allow you to do your elemental skill a lot more and have more energy and stuff like that, which is pretty good. But as I said, the refinements are going to be kind of necessary. Maybe at least like refinement 3 or 4. We've got the Royal Bow. It's just going to give you attack and then the bullshit passive. It's probably going C tier. Same thing with the Rust, pretty much. It's going C tier. It's just attack and then it's going to increase your normal attack's damage. Same thing with the Prototype Crescent. It's probably going C tier. Compound Bow is just physical damage and then it's going to increase your attack. Probably C or D tier, maybe D tier. We've got the Blackcliff Warbow, a high base attack and then it's going to give you crit damage, which is pretty good. The passive is going to increase your attack, but you're probably not going to trigger the passive at all. Yeah, I would probably put it at like B tier just for the crit rate and stuff like that. But as I said, it's not really like the recommended type of weapons for Faruzan. Exact same thing with the Verdescent Hunt. It's probably going B tier just for the crit rate. Lower than the Blackcliff because it has a lower base attack, but it's pretty much the same thing. Alley Hunter, kind of high base attack, and then it's going to increase your attack, and then it's going to increase your damage when you're not on field. Faruzan is probably not going to be on field, which is pretty good. So it's going to give you a high base attack, and then attack, and then damage bonus. It's going to help out your damage a lot, but I wouldn't really say it's super good. So yeah, it's probably going like B tier 2. Fade in Twilight is going to give you a high base attack, energy recharge, and then the passive is just going to give you damage bonus. It's also pretty good, but kind of a small energy recharge substat, and and the passive doesn't really help you out with energy at all. The high base attack is also pretty good for a 4-star weapon at least. So yeah, it's a good weapon, but I wouldn't say it's S tier. I'll probably put it at like A tier. Mid or not swolls, physical damage and stuff like that, it's probably going D tier. Windbloom Ode, it's just elemental mastery, and I guess it's gonna increase your attack if I remember. It's probably going like D tier 2. Hama Yumi, exact same thing, is going D tier. Predator, D tier 2. We've got the Moon's Moon. It's gonna give you a high base attack, which is pretty good, and then it's gonna give you attack as a substat, which is also pretty good. It's gonna help out your damage, and then the passive is gonna increase your elemental burst damage. It's a great damage weapon and also the high base attack, but I wouldn't really say it's like super good. I'll probably put it at B tier 2. We've got the King's Squire, a low base attack and then attack as a substat, so it's already not really super good. And then it's gonna increase your elemental mastery, and then it's gonna like do some extra damage, which is not really important. So yeah, it's probably going like C tier. And finally, for the 4 stars, we've got the End of the Line. Kind of an average base attack for a 4-star weapon, but it's cool. It's gonna give you energy recharge as a substat and kind of like a medium substat. It's not really super small, which is pretty good too. And then the passive is basically just gonna give you damage, which is not really that important. But yeah, just for the energy recharge substat, it's gonna be a decent weapon. I would put it at like lower A tier. It's gonna work, but it's not really like super good. Now for the 5 stars, we've got the Skyward Harp, a super high base stack, like super high, the highest in the game, and then a crit rate substat, and then it's gonna give you crit damage from the passive, and it's gonna give you some damage too. It's pretty good for damage and also for the high base attack, but it doesn't give you any energy, so it cannot really be super good. But in my opinion, the super high base stack is still very valuable. So I might put it at like lower S tier or higher A tier. Probably higher A tier because it doesn't give you like any energy. If it gave you a little bit of energy, it's gonna be pretty good, but with no energy, it's gonna be hard to say it's S tier. But yeah, either way, it's gonna be a very good weapon just for the super high base attack. If you use it, your damage is probably gonna be pretty good, and also the damage bonus she gives is gonna be pretty high. So yeah, it's a decent weapon. We've got the Amos Bow, a high base attack too. It's a 5-star weapon, and then attack from the substat, which is pretty good, and then it's gonna increase just your auto attack damage and stuff like that from the passive, which is not really that important. It's just a damage weapon in my opinion, and the high base attack, obviously I would put it at like higher B tier. It's not really like super good. We've got the LG for the End, a high base attack, and then it's gonna give you energy recharge from the substat, and it's also kind of a big substat, which is pretty good. So yeah, it's already pretty good, you know, it checks most of the boxes, and the passive is gonna give you elemental mastery, and then you're gonna be able to buff the rest of your team with attack and elemental mastery. The elemental mastery buff is probably not gonna be that valuable in like Faruzan teams, but the attack buff is gonna be pretty good. So yeah, overall it's a great weapon. I would say it's S tier material, you know, good energy recharge, a high base attack, and then it's also gonna buff your team, which is pretty good. So yeah, I'll put it at like S tier. Polar Star, a high base attack, and then crit rate. The passive is basically just gonna give you attack. It's just a damage weapon with a high base attack. I would say it's probably B tier too. You know, no energy and stuff like that. I wouldn't really recommend using that on Faruzan. Aqua Simulacra, kind of a low base attack for a 5-star weapon, but it's gonna give you a huge crit damage substat, which is pretty good. It's gonna increase your HP, and then it's gonna increase your damage bonus. So yeah, it's just a damage weapon. I would say it's B tier too. Thunder Impulse, it's pretty much the exact same thing. It's just gonna give you crit damage and then kind of a higher base attack, and then it's just gonna increase your attack, which is not really super good. So yeah, it's going B tier too. And finally, we've got the Hunter's Path, kind of a low base attack for a 5-star weapon. Crit rate as a substat, which is pretty good. And then the passive is basically just gonna give you elemental damage bonus. The rest of the passive is not really that important. So yeah, I would say it's probably B tier too. As you guys can see here, most of the 5-star weapons were like B tier, because as I said, the most important thing is gonna be energy from your weapon, and most of them don't give you like any energy at all. So even though they're gonna give you like a high base attack, crit, and stuff like that, they're still not gonna be like her best weapons. But yeah, she do have a lot of like free-to-play friendly weapons that you can use. So I would say she's fairly like free-to-play friendly. You can manage with like the Favonius and stuff like that. And if you have the LG or something like that, it's gonna be even better. But yeah, that was the video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you want to say anything, leave it in the comments, and see y'all in the next video. Peace.